Disclaimer, this video will contain spoilers for the entirety of Battle Royale. If you haven't watched or read it, I would absolutely recommend that you do. This video will be focusing mainly on the manga version of the plot, which is pretty similar to the novel, but the movie is a good jumping off point. Also, this video will contain graphic imagery of violence, because it's about Battle Royale. Hi, I'm Harriet, and I've been obsessed with Battle Royale for about 7 years now. This story, which has often been called a precursor to the Hunger Games, which I have my own thoughts on, but I'll get to that later, is a tale that takes place in a dystopian future Japan where the government is an oppressive, cruel dictatorship. In this new Japan, each year 9th grade classes are selected to fight to the death until only one student, or none, remains. The story was originally published as a novel in 1999 by Koshun Takami. It was later developed into a manga series running from 2000 to 2005, also written by Takami, and a movie in 2000 directed by Kinji Fukasaku and written by Kenta Fukasaku. In a rare instance, all three versions of the story are really good in different ways. The movie departs the most from the original content, but they've only got 2 hours, and this story is long. The plot in the novel and manga is far more developed, so that's why I'm covering that. In cases where the manga and novel differ, I'm going to mostly discuss the manga because I know it a bit better, and I think in a lot of ways it's the most interesting version, although boy does it have some problems. The argument I'm making? This violent, bloody story, where friends kill each other and children die in horrible ways, is actually about the merits of having faith in humanity and love for your fellow man, and it ultimately rewards this way of thinking. First, I will begin by discussing how the good and bad people are presented in Battle Royale. More specifically, how the good guys have a goal they're trying to achieve, and the bad guys have a reason for their actions. Out of the 40-some-odd students, the three main characters are Shuya Nanahara, Noriko Nakagawa, and Shogo Kawada. If any of the three is the true protagonist, it's Shuya, a popular rock-and-roll-obsessed teen who's a little rebellious, athletic, very well-liked, and extremely idealistic. Noriko is a sweet, quiet, and also generally well-liked girl. Shogo is an older student who was the winner of a previous Battle Royale and is still suffering as a result of his actions in that game. Each of these three characters represents a different way of being an utterly good person. Shuya is the naive idealist, Noriko is more rational but still ideological, and Shogo is cynical and bitter but seeking redemption through good acts. In the end, Shuya and Noriko are the only two to survive the game. This is essential. These three are not the only good people in Battle Royale, and it wouldn't be interesting if they were. Let me give you a quick rundown of some of the other important characters on the side of good and their general goals. Shinji Mimura is the popular boy teaming up with his less cool friend Yutaka to try to blow up the school and save everyone with the bomb materials Shinji got from his government dissident uncle. Hiroki Sugimura is a martial arts star but a pacifist who wants nothing more than to find the two people most important to him, his best friend Takako Chigusa and the girl he's in love with but has barely spoken to, Kayoko Kotahiki. Yukie Utsumi is a leader among the girls of the class and is trying to gather and create an alliance of those who want peace. With only 2 survivors, all these people, and many other good students, are going to die. However, it's how they died that matters. They are each in search of a goal, some of which I mentioned a second ago. Shogo Kawada himself is also in search of a goal, to protect Shuya and Noriko and redeem himself. Several of them succeed in their goals, and all of them die trying. What is important about this goal philosophy is that it in particular is what marks the good and the bad sides of Battle Royale's complex morality. The characters with goals outside of surviving are those who are considered to be good people within the context of the story. There are plenty of morally gray characters who just want to survive, but the most tragic characters are those who are trying to achieve something. Even characters like Sakura and Kazuhiko, the lovers of the class, have the goal to escape in their own way, through death, before being forced to partake in the game. The vast majority of the characters in Battle Royale are given a backstory, or an explanation of some sort, for how they came to be who they are at this particular point in their lives. Even characters who are murderers are usually not cold and calculating. For example, the first kill of the game was committed by Akamatsu, the most bullied student in the class who was driven mad by the fear that the others would target him, as they always had. Yuko, who becomes inadvertently responsible for the deaths of Yukie's group by trying to poison Shuya, is portrayed as a highly fragile person who never had a hope of surviving in the first place due to her traumatic reaction to violence. These characters are never presented as villains, although their actions are at times villainous. Even the clearest antagonists, Mitsuko Soma and Kazuo Kiriyama, have lives that explain, although do not necessarily excuse, their actions. These two in particular may be the best example because of how much time they have to be developed. They kill a great number of people and both survive through most of the story, so they have a lot of screen time. Mitsuko's past experiences with sexual abuse and Kiriyama's brain damage are not necessarily presented as redeeming traits for the two characters, but neither are the characters presented as utterly abhorrent. There are some characters who I would consider to be morally reprehensible. Toshinori Oda and Kazushi Nida are good examples. Nida's life is a mystery to the readers, so he becomes, rightfully, a total villain when he tries to rape Takago Chigusa. Oda is given a backstory, but his extreme pride and sneering veneer only make him more despicable. He even hates Shuya, and come on, no one hates Shuya. These characters are without reason for their actions beyond selfishness and just generally being terrible people. I hate them. But these characters are given no tragic death. No one mourns their passing. They do not get a final moment in the same way that even villains like Mitsuko and Kiriyama do. They are given an extremely small amount of focus in the grand scheme of the story, as if someone so repugnant doesn't even deserve to be remotely redeemed. Mitsuko and Kiriyama both receive drawn-out final moments, giving some opportunity for the audience to fully understand their motivations before they die. Even when picturing their worst crimes, almost everyone feels just a little twinge of sadness as they breathe their last. As Shuya exclaims many a time, if the game had never happened, they might have had a chance to live a good life. Shinji Mimura, a character I mentioned previously in this essay, has one of the most fascinating character arcs in a story that's chock full of interesting characters. Shinji is built up by so many other characters before he even really has the chance to do anything. While reading the book for the first time, I jokingly recorded the number of times Shinji was complimented by one of the other characters. Trust me, it's a lot. He is established as a nearly perfect character, aside from his sexist tendencies, which go largely unaddressed. He is handsome, cool, intelligent, rational, and friendly. Almost all the girls and probably some of the boys are in love with Shinji. He's an athlete and a popular kid, but he's a popular kid that everyone actually likes. He's even a budding rebel against the cruel government. And then his moment of truth comes. While attempting to execute a remarkably well-thought-out plan, Shinji encounters a classmate who had previously betrayed him in a very minor way, Keita Ijima. In a kind of petty self-preservation, Shinji insists he can't trust Keita, and tries to get him to leave, resulting in accidentally shooting him. And all over a fucking Coke. Thus, he begins to crumble. You see, Shinji isn't an expert marksman. Being good at middle school basketball doesn't make you able to shoot a gun well for the first time. In the end, Shinji is as much of a child as any of them are. Not that you'd know their actual ages from the manga designs. Looking at you, Sho. From there, Shinji's plan explodes in his face quite literally as Kiriyama appears, drawn by the gunshot. He attempts to kill Kiriyama by exploding the bomb meant for the school, but as Kiriyama is the Terminator, he fails. As Shinji lies dying from wounds inflicted by Kiriyama, his friends lying dead around him, Kiriyama appears before him. Shinji reaches for his gun to take a final shot. But Shinji is a human, and humans are flawed. A perfect person, the kind of boy everyone thinks Shinji is, doesn't really exist. Because Battle Royale's love of humanity comes from embracing imperfection. Even though Shinji fails, you understand him. He's human because he fails. In any other story, Shinji could have been the one to make the clutch shot and shoot Kiriyama down in his final moments. But this is Battle Royale, and characters who are heroes still fail, and still die. Let's take this moment of silence for Shinji and use it to appreciate the terrible/wonderful 2000 slang used in the English translation of the manga. It's so bad, but I would miss it so much if it were gone. Sugimura is another flawed character, and another one who could probably be the hero of another story, probably a martial arts manga from the way his fight with Kiriyama looks. He is not able to protect either of the girls he sets out to save, and is killed in a scene that is terribly tragic no matter which version you're looking at. Any other hero would be saved by pure determination, by finally understanding their master's teachings at the crucial moment. But Sugi's determination doesn't save him, and he doesn't have the luck to be in a different series. And as I've mentioned before, it would have been better for him if Kiriyama wasn't literally the Terminator. Even our pure, good boy,
now that's a boy that I could get into,
Shuya, has some character flaws, mostly related to his naivete and reckless behavior. Shuya would most definitely have died several times over if it weren't for the intervention of other parties, especially Shogo. Shogo and Shuya's relationship is vital to the piece because they display opposite sides of the coin when it comes to humanity. Shogo despises most of humanity, including himself. He is as far as can be from the generally happy-go-lucky Shuya. Noriko serves in a way as a bridge between them, able to see where they are both coming from with her understanding nature. Shogo likes Noriko and Shuya for their cheerful, oblivious optimism, but he also sees them as fools. Shuya is an optimist to the core, and is therefore unable to handle the bloodshed and death. He is motivated by the love and faith he has in his classmates, and when he is at his lowest point, the audience is too. I personally will never cease to be moved to tears by Shuya's discovery of Shinji's body. Forcing both the character and the audience to directly confront one of the story's greatest tragedies shows Shuya's descent into depression, and honestly makes the audience feel a bit depressed as well. What is the point of this work, the audience might be wondering as Shuya cries over his best friend's dead body? Is anyone good going to get to live? Or is Kiriyama going to take down the remaining moral characters one by one? However, Shuya is never one to give up. He is able to overcome the pain of his friends' deaths by choosing to believe that it could all have meaning, that the world could change. Even at his most pessimistic, he still wants to find the good in all the terror. In the end, Shuya and Noriko survive, and this is absolutely the most critical part of my point. Shogo makes the choice to believe in the two of them, to put his faith back in humanity. Although he dies, he does so finally forgiving himself. Shuya and Noriko are fools, in a way. They don't have nearly the same sense of the violence that lurks in those around them as Shogo, or even Shinji and Sugimura. Thank goodness they were found by Shogo and not Mitsuko. The two of them refuse to see the worst in anyone, barely even the sociopathic killer Kiriyama. But in the end, this hope and love is what keeps them going, and what saves them. In the end, this is why it matters that the characters are humans in Battle Royale, and not two-dimensional chess pieces moved around a board. They each have hopes and dreams, and their past dictates their present. They are flawed, yes, but all humans are. When talking to the artist of the manga, Takami told him to keep in mind that there were no real villains in Class B, and if this hadn't happened, each student would have had their own happy future. To which Taguchi responded, "No kids in this story are simply evil. Even those that seem evil could have been good if things had gone differently." The way this faith in humanity is executed has never allowed me to believe that Battle Royale is purely exploitative, or even very similar to the Hunger Games, which takes a much more pessimistic stance. Battle Royale is about love. It's about love for each other and for humanity. It's not a love that blinds. It's a love that acknowledges the faults of human character, which can see that circumstances can drive good people to do terrible things. It's a love that does not excuse, but does, in a way, forgive. I love Battle Royale, and Battle Royale loves humanity. Thank you for watching.
どこまででもいい。精一杯でいいから。走れ。